In this presentation, I look at the Gematria encryption associated with the Greek word cosmos. In particular, I examine the way it's used at the beginning of St. John's Gospel. The word cosmos means good order, perfect arrangement, regularity, or decency. And from this, it's used to describe the world, because the world was thought of as a harmonious body. Simultaneously, it was used for the universe, because the universe was also thought to be composed along regular and well-ordered lines. By Gematria, the value of the word is 600, and it comes from exactly 6 letters. So it's strongly associated with the number 6. This can be represented as a cube of sides 6, or 600, but the proportions are the same. Now, this is a particularly important figure in geometry because the volume is equal to the surface area. 6 by 6 by 6 is 216, either cubic units for the volume or square units for the surface area. No other cube has this property. It's partly because a cube is a 6-sided figure. It also has the property that it can be made up from the sum of the 3rd, 4th and 5th cubes. 3 cubed plus 4 cubed plus 5 cubed equals 6 cubed. And it thus embodies the 3-4-5 ratio of the Pythagorean triangle. Now, the two words megas cosmos have a Gematria value of 849, which is significant because it is 600 times the square root of 2. And on the cube, 849 marks the diagonal of any face. The two words mikros cosmos, microcosm, have a value of 1040, which is 600 times the square root of 3. And on the cube, this will mark any corner-to-corner diagonal in 3 dimensions. Now, one thing which devolves from this figure is a right-angled isosceles triangle, 2 sides of 600 and the hypotenuse of 849. Now, the perimeter of this triangle is 2049. This gives an important Gematria valuation for the words meaning the square in Greek, to tetragonon. But that's also used for the builder's square. Obviously, this is a prime tool of any architect, whether it's an architect of the cosmos or an architect of everyday buildings. The letter values of tetragonon are there. However, an even more important triangle is that made from one side, one face diagonal and one corner-to-corner diagonal. And this has a perimeter of 2488. Now, this is an extremely important cosmic number. By Gematria, it gives the valuation of the words Kosmos esti logos Kyriou. The cosmos is the word of the Lord. Simultaneously, it gives us morphe to Kyriou, the form of the Lord. And a third one is Jesus Kyrios Kosmou, Jesus, Lord of the cosmos. Now, St. John seems to have picked up on this in his Gospel. In the first chapter, verse 10, he writes, "He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not." So that's 3 repetitions of the words cosmos, or O Kosmos. Now what's interesting is in the very next sentence, verse 11, he writes Eis ta idia elthen kai oi idioi auton u paralavan. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. And the value of those words is 2,488. Exactly. So John seems to have been playing on this cosmic figure in the composition of his gospel. Now, if we put together verses 10 and 11, we find that the total Gematria value of both sentences is 7,538 plus the 2,488 we've already seen. And this makes a total of 10,026. Now this is a number which is divisible by 6 by the cosmic number. And if we divide it by 6, we can make the geometric figure of a 6-sided star or seal of Solomon, a hexagram, and the sides of this hexagram will be 1,671. This is particularly significant as it gives the combined values of microcosmos and macrocosmos. 840 plus 831 is 1671. And this is symbolized by the two triangles, one pointing up to the sky, one pointing down to the earth, of the hexagram. It's a very neat figure. And very possibly this was the intention of John with the exact wording of these two verses. The little man in the great universe. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. As above, so below. Right, 2488 can be represented as the circumference of a circle, and if so, the diameter will be 7,920. Rather important in cosmic terms, because this is the Earth. Those are its dimensions in miles. 7,920 miles is the average diameter of the Earth. At the same time, a circle of 2,488 circumference will exactly hold the inscribed figure of a hexagram with a total length of 4,116. This is the value of Uranos, meaning heaven or the heavens, which is rather suitable. One thing I should point out is that the way Uranos is counted is by a technique sometimes called filling or plenitude, milui in Hebrew, which means that you use the names of each letter. So, for example, the first letter of Uranos is Omicron, and you count that as Omicron, Mi, Iota, Kappa, Rho, Omicron, Ni. So that's 360 for this counts as the first letter of Uranos. It's an interesting possibility. Another very important number which comes out of this is 3,168, which marks the perimeter of a square drawn around the cosmic circle. Now, 3,168 is one of the most important numbers in esoteric numerology. It's associated with the mystical city of Plato. It's associated with the layout of Glastonbury Abbey, and it's also very well known as the value of a certain person, deity, Kyrios Jesus Christos. Exactly the value of 3,168. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. Now this sentence obviously has the world 3 times. However, the grammar in Greek is slightly different. We have to kosmo, ho cosmos, and ho cosmos. And the values together combine to make 3,570. This is a number divisible by 3, and we find it's 1,190 by 3. And that is very, very important, because 1,190 is a value of 8 in Greek, octo. So 3 times octo gives us 888. And Jesus has a value of 888. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. Now, another reference to the world comes in the previous verse, which we know as, "That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world." Okay, so we have the world again, and here the grammar gives us ton kosmon. So now we have 4 references to the world and a total value of 4,440. It's a very neat round number, and obviously as a triple-digit repeat, it's like 666 and many other numbers in the Bible, it is of great significance. We find, for example, by Gematria, it gives us the Church of Lord Jesus Christ, he Ecclesia tu Kyriou Jesu Christou. And it's also 888 times 5, 5 times the value of Jesus. This can be represented geometrically as a 5-pointed star, with each side measuring 888. Now the geometry of a pentangle is such that you can draw a pentagon around it by dividing its length by phi, or the golden section. So 4440 divided by 1.618 is 2,744. And this gives us an allied Gematria target of the Church of Christ, Ecclesia tu Christou, which is rather neat. Now, with 4,440 coming from 4 iterations of the world, obviously 1110 is a significant derivative, and we find here the value of omikros cosmos, the microcosm. And simultaneously it gives us the macrocosm, or cosmos, or olos, the whole cosmos. A third reading is to Aetheros melos, the music of the spheres. And this is an expression which comes from the Pythagorean theory of a harmonious universe that's held together by celestial music. With an additional 0, we find the names of 12 particularly relevant bodies: Ammon, Tauros, Didymoi, Karkinos, Leon, Parthenos, Chilai, Scorpios, Tuxutes, Agokeros, Idrikoos, Ichthys, known in English as Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. So the great celestial circle, the 12 constellations, have the exact value of 11,100. We are definitely in a cosmic country here. And if you don't believe me, these are the values, how it all adds up. You can check it out if you want to. Now, in terms of geometry, the four figures of 1110 are most logically represented by a square. Within this square can be drawn a circle whose diameter is 1110, and the circumference will be found to be 3487. This figure 3487 is especially relevant as the sum of two other numbers, 2368 and 1119. Some people will be familiar with that 2368 because it gives the value of a Jesus Christos. And what of 1119? Well, that is the value of Ioannes, or John. So this cosmic circle seems to represent a mystical union of Jesus Christ and John. Now, of course, whether this is John the Evangelist, or John the beloved disciple, or John the Baptist, or John of Patmos, or whether some of them are the same, we don't know. However, if it seems perhaps a little disturbing to Christians to see the divine Jesus Christ united with the mortal John, there is one indication that John may have a significance, an esoteric significance, greater than is generally realized. In the first verse of John's Gospel, we find, in the beginning was the Logos, or Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, in Greek, the word Logos has a value of 373. And when we multiply that by 3, we find 1119. So this seems to me a hint that the Logos and John are somehow very closely connected. As to how they are connected, I don't want to speculate, but it does seem to be more than a coincidence. Something to reflect on, perhaps. Now, back to the circle and the square. If we add the 4440 to the 3487, we find a total of 7,927. This is absolutely gobsmacking in cosmological terms because it provides the exact equatorial diameter of the Earth. Now, the diameter of the Earth is generally considered to be 7,920 miles. However, there is an equatorial bulge. The Earth is fatter in the middle than it is around the top, or any other part. And how accurate is this? Well, the best modern figure that NASA and people like, well, companies, organizations like that can come up with is 7,926.38. So 7927 is incredibly accurate for the time that John was writing. 100 AD is generally thought to be the case, or the ancient Greeks. This would seem to be a figure that was known perhaps in esoteric circles by the ancient Greeks. They did measure the world with a very high degree of accuracy, but this degree of accuracy, well, if it was known, it was a secret, and it was only revealed in encrypted form in places like the 9th and 10th verses of St. John's Gospel. If you found this video interesting, please click the like button and subscribe, and watch out for more videos on my channel. Thank you.